first?
Yes.
Got it.
What?
I got weather. I figured it out.
Oh.
It was opening. For some reason, the Google Chrome, when you click on it, it would open under a different account. But it wasn't just a Google account. It was like Google Chrome account. I've never seen that before. But I figured it out and we're good. That's all it was.
Okay.
Well, we have everything now. Weekend okay?
Yeah, most of it was, working with LSU.
606, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Good morning, everybody. Brian here with you. Jake producing. We call it Mornings with Brian Haldane. We are off and running on this Monday morning. If you are able to pull yourself out of bed and get on with life, good on you this morning. Wow, what a rough weekend. We'll get into that in a second. The rundown for today, Richard Condon going to be coming by at 6:35. Every Monday morning we bring Richard in for just a little segment to kick off the week, Condon's Countdown. Basically, whatever he's got going on, whatever he wants to talk about. I do zero prep for that one segment and just roll with it when Rich comes in. You know what, though? Kind of lights a fire. That's why we like doing it. In the 7 o'clock hour, Dr. Tyler Boudreau from Our Lady of the Lake is going to hop on board. We are talking hypertension this morning for our Medical Monday segment. Stephen Wagaspack hopping on board at 7:35 from the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. I'm looking forward to this one. A lot got done in our nation's capital last week, and a lot more is left on the table. What will that mean for business in Louisiana? We're talking with Stephen at 7:35. Oh, also, and this is important, I mean, we're what, a month and a week away from Election Day here in Louisiana? We are getting geared up and ready to take a number of things that happened during the legislative session and push them across the finish line. So we'll be talking about that with Stephen as well at 7:35. In the 8 o'clock hour, Dr. Cade Brumley is the head of the Department of Education in Louisiana. He is our superintendent of education. He will join me at 8:15 to talk. Normally we talk with Dr. Brumley on the first Tuesday of every month, but scheduling reasons and whatnot, I wanted to get him on the sooner rather than later to talk about the parent's choice option. From school district to school district, they have the option to tell parents, hey, if your kid has been in close contact with COVID-19 but does not have COVID-19, you don't necessarily have to go through the whole COVID-19 quarantine. It's drawing a lot of blowback because of it. We're going to talk with Dr. Brumley about that new policy. Also, this in the show this morning, we're going to round things out with Hunt Palmer. You know Hunt from our midday show on 104.5 ESPN. You also know him from the pre- and post-game shows for LSU football. What the hell happened Saturday night? How? 20 years, 22 years since Auburn had won in Tiger Stadium. That streak had to come to an end sometime. But the way it played out was just gross. We're going to talk about it with Hunt at 8:40. 8:40 this morning. Plus, we'll have the latest on COVID-19. The numbers continue to trend in the right direction. Plus, we'll check in on the tropics and a number of other things. I got to start off, though, with, that game. Oh, goodness gracious. Now, you had the LSU game Saturday night and the Saints game on Sunday. And both were disappointing. Both were leads that were relinquished towards the end. Both were wins that slipped through your fingers. But I got to tell you, I think the Saints' loss was way worse than LSU's loss. What happened Saturday night was disappointing. Yes, it was infuriating to watch. Just tackle him. Tackle Bo Nix. That's all you got to do. Look, I understand it. I get the frustration behind it. I understand Baton Rouge is never more itself than when it wants a football coach fired. I understand that. But what Bo Nix did Saturday was otherworldly. With the slipping through tackles and the scrambling and whatnot, guy probably ran 2 miles during the game, side to side, like laterally. But the likelihood of that being repeated is much less or much lower than the likelihood of what happened on Sunday being repeated. The Saints just folded. They just folded. Like, Bo Nix put Auburn on his shoulders Saturday, and LSU couldn't keep up with a man on a mission. And they couldn't run the ball. But what happened Sunday was just disgusting. And it's going to have to be addressed on a huge level at some point. LSU's run game Saturday is still showing the same problems they've shown all season. And that is, I don't know if it's personnel or what, but Saints pass game on Sunday is worse than LSU's run game on Saturday. Tell you what, we'll break all that down in our next segment when we get to sports. Oh, also recapping the weekend. I went into the weekend disappointed. All Friday long, I was hyping up the Many Saints of Newark. All Friday long, I was on that David Chase train. I don't know if you saw it over the weekend, but man, that left a lot to be desired. That was a stinker.
No.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
All the
God.
hype riding up to it. So, no spoilers here because it is still fresh. It just came out on Friday. No spoilers here, but it was all over the place. Yes, you got to see all the characters as they were young. They tried to make jokes out of a number of the characters. It was too comedic in places where it didn't need to be. And the movie did not have its own identity. It was not like it was supposed to be the Dicky Moltisanti story. It was not one storyline from start to finish. It was a hodgepodge of everything from everywhere.
Did they just try and do like greatest hits all at once, and it got cluttered?
Yeah, pretty much. And now the good news is it did set the table for probably a dozen other stories to follow.
But are you interested in following them?
Absolutely, I am, because it's David Chase, and I'm that invested in the whole Soprano saga.
And I guess it did its job, but
Nah, it just I wanted a lot more from that one movie to take one path.
what a shame.
Also, didn't need to see Ray Liotta play two characters, but that's neither here nor there. We got to take a break. When we come back, we are going to talk sports a little bit, dive deeper into or hear some audio from Ed Ogeron as well as Sean Payton as we talk Saints and LSU's losses, just both stinkers over the weekend as well. So, quick break, coming right back on Talk 106. Oh, wait, you know what? Before we take that break, though, got to tell you about the folks over at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. 2 locations. If you are not getting the best night's sleep possible, it's going to affect your day. If you are not getting a good night's sleep, you are not going to be as productive as you can be the next day. And a lot of times, that good night's sleep starts with a good mattress. If you're in Mid-City, 4065 Florida Boulevard. 4065 Florida Boulevard. Or, if you're in the southeastern regions of the parish, 18181 Jefferson Highway. That is the corner of Jefferson and Hoosier 2. Both locations of the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet have the same great deals, same great mattresses, same great financing, same great prices, and same great service. Both of them, if you mention you heard about it right here, you will get free delivery at either of those 2 locations. The Mid-City location is a little bit bigger, but swing by. Swing by either location. Try them out. Lay down on as many mattresses as you can until you find the one that's just right for you. And you will find the one that's just right for you. At 4065 Florida Boulevard or the corner of Jefferson and Hoosier 2 for the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet.
Previous hailstorms that caused hidden damage to countless Baton Rouge homes. Royston Roofing spots the damage. Basically,
It sucked.
this is your roof. You pay only
It sucked out loud.
What a shame. Was it the same, like, everyone behind the project was the ones behind the show? Or was it, like, a whole...
Wait, what?
The people behind the show, like, the story, the directing, whatever? Like,
Yeah,
it
it
the
was
same?
written by David Chase, the whole works.
Wow.
Yeah.
So safe to say, watch the show first.
Yeah. You know what, though? At this point, if you watch the movie first, you might get more out of the movie. I might have had my expectations too high. I don't know. So, it just...
I mean, even some people were disappointed by, shoot, what's it called? El Camino? Even though I loved El Camino. The Breaking Bad movie.
Very similar, actually. I was let down by El Camino.
I loved it, but granted, I watched all of that all the way through in one go. Like, I wasn't a Breaking Bad fan until a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Or like about a year ago. I always wanted to watch it, but I never got into it. And then I just blasted through the whole series, and I'm hooked, and Vince Gilligan is a genius.
El Camino was just boring.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I liked that we got like some closure with the ending of certain characters. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna spoil it for anybody that hasn't tuned in, even though you totally should have
No,
by
for like
now.
5 years.
Yeah. So I like how they ended off Jesse's character. If anyone deserved a happier ending, it's him. It's such a shame, though. I feel like it's more and more often that I am hyped for new projects or projects involving franchises I'm absolutely addicted to, and they just disappoint.
You got it. .618 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Got to move quickly here. LSU. Well, we all know what happened. First time since the cigar game in 1999. Tigers drop a home game to Auburn. They let a 13-point lead slip away to lose the Plainsmen, the War Eagles, whatever, on Saturday night. 24-19, your final score. The running game, if you can call it that, was non-existent. Probably one of the bigger reasons why LSU fell. Here's what Ed Ogeron had to say about that running game.
We're trying to run the football. Just every time we run the football, we get stuffed. And we wanted to throw more short passes on first down, but not to say that we wasn't going to run the football. We got to find ways to run the football, and we got to block. We still didn't give our quarterback enough time to throw. We had 6-man protection, and we got beat 1-on-1.
I don't know what any of that means, but it just looks bad. It just looks bad every time out. Auburn started off their rally in the second quarter when Bo Nix scrambled around for several seconds, avoiding multiple attempts at a sack. I believe we counted 6 different attempts at a sack on one play. Ends up landing for a touchdown pass. I mean, it was just ridiculous to watch. He also ran for a touchdown. Here's LSU linebacker Damone Clark.
We couldn't tackle Bo Nix. That's the biggest thing. We had him where we wanted him. We were stopping. We was doing the things we were supposed to do on first and second down, and we were able to have some fun on third down. I mean, we just didn't come through. Way too many missed tackles.
Far too many missed tackles. We're going to pick this up after we check in with the Fox Business Report because I want to talk Saints as well. That was just as disappointing, if not more so. Here comes Fox Business on Talk 107.3. I'll be right back. All right, what do we get going on here? Morning, Tiffany. Morning, Byron. Morning, Eric. Byron says, I didn't find a reason for many Saints to be made. There was one big reveal, but it doesn't really enhance the Sopranos tale much. And it could have. They could have dove into Dickie Moltisanti a lot more. They also, and this is the problem with, I can't do this without doing spoilers. But Christopher Moltisanti was a junkie and told you straight up that Dickie Moltisanti was a junkie. Like, they did not walk down that path at all. Also, the biggest storyline I was looking for was, and this is not a spoiler because you know if you watch The Sopranos, and if you haven't watched The Sopranos, my bad, you know Dickie Moltisanti is dead. Okay? That's the biggest spoiler I'm going to give. He does not survive through the movie. But if you watch The Sopranos, you know that Christopher has the opportunity to, quote-unquote, kill the cop who killed his old man. But did a cop really kill his old man, or was Tony lying to Chris in the first place? That was just so underplayed. It wasn't even a thing. Closure on the storylines that were from the TV show were not there. And new storylines, it's just this hodgepodge of garbage. Eric says it sounds like a coach on the hot seat. Every LSU coach is on the hot seat. Most of LSU's fan base wanted Nick Saban fired in 2002. We all forget about that now, but our favorite coach is the coach before the last coach, and the next coach. The telling point of the LSU-Auburn game is if LSU had rushed for 50 yards, we win the game. Auburn is a bad team. I disagree with that entirely. Auburn is a top 25 team. I could tell that by the number 18 in front of them. They're not a bad team. LSU, who I'm curious about the rushing yards thing because we're not running new plays. We're just continually trying to do the same thing over and over again. And I'm not going to try and like make it sound like there's a run game to be had. But there's got to be some kind of there's got to be some kind of answer to the run game. Did you have that? Do you have that Sean Payton cut that I sent you? Okay. Do I? Oh. 624 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. So one more cut from LSU. Could have had one more touchdown in the first half before calling it a half, but burned multiple timeouts on offense. They were trying to audible before the play clock hit zero. Talking about those communication issues, and they have been an issue throughout the season. Ogeron says the coaches have to do a better job of getting plays in.
Yeah, we just have to hurry up. I mean, we're trying to change the play. I told them that we have to just call the play and run with it. And sometimes we change the play, sometimes it's coming in late, and we're trying to change the protection just not enough time. There's no excuse for that. We should not be at that point.
No, there's no excuse for it. And someone's going to put all this together with Coach Ogeron where after every loss, you hear the exact same talking points every single time. It's rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. And I'm going to be in his corner the entire time. I know there's a lot of people out there who just always want the coach fired. There's a number of people who are going to be upset when you see the same problems over and over again. I like a lot of what's going on. It's just fixing the little things that are still wrong. That's where the problem comes in. Anyway, that closes the book on LSU for the week. They head to Kentucky. Kentucky is now a top 25 team as well. But I'm not worried about Kentucky. LSU bouncing back after a loss is a good thing, or at least that's something Coach Ogeron is good at getting done. There's also this. Kentucky had fewer than 250 yards of total offense last week against Florida. Beat Florida. Kentucky's undefeated. That's weird. beat Florida for the first time in who knows how long. So you got LSU coming off a loss, Kentucky riding an unbelievable high, an unusual road trip, which Tiger fans tend to sign up for. We don't go to Lexington that often. Kroger Field, I think it is. Anyway, that's coming up this Saturday. All right, follow that up with Saints on Sunday were just an absolute stinker as well. Held a lead up by 21-10 going into the fourth quarter. You end up losing in overtime. Here's what Coach Sean Payton had to say about the loss.
Tough game to lose. Give credit to New York. They kind of hung in there. And, in this league, when you're able to do that, all the teams are good enough to make enough plays. And certainly we didn't feel like when we came into this game, we were seeing an 0-3 team. We knew how well they played against Atlanta and Washington. And anyway, so there were a number of things we're going to watch on the tape that we like, that we did well. And then there's going to be a number of things that we're going to want to get corrected. So anytime you have a game that goes into overtime and, you lead for most of the game and you lose, it's frustrating.
Yeah. Jameis Winston threw for 226 yards, which I believe is the most he's thrown for in one game so far this season. Which, whatever. Alvin Kamara had 120 yards rushing. Taysom Hill found the end zone twice. He even threw the ball. Lined up Taysom Hill and did not run the exact same play every single time, although they did run the exact same play a number of times. Everything looked like it was trending in the right direction for the Saints to beat a winless team, but the defense just collapsed in the fourth quarter. Allowed Daniel Jones to look like an all-star. Saquon Barkley is an all-pro. Yeah, just a disappointing weekend from start to finish. Let's close the book on sports and move on. Oh, by the way, the Monday night game is going to be on our sister station, 104.5, 104.9 ESPN. So we're going to dive into this a little bit right here, but they're going to have more news at the bottom of the hour. The chief of infectious diseases at LSU Health New Orleans is weighing in on a COVID-19 pill that manufacturer Merck says will reduce hospitalizations and cut in half the number of deaths in people recently infected with coronavirus. Dr. Julio Figueroa.
This particular pill would be very good to give to individuals who don't have access to IV therapy and are at high risk for getting into the hospital but don't need to be in the hospital yet.
Don't need to be in the hospital yet, and that IV therapy, I guess, is the monoclonal antibody treatment that has been really catching on and growing in popularity. This is well-timed, to say the least, because it's on the back end of the fourth surge. It's on the back end of the Delta variant having such a foothold in Louisiana. It's going to have a greater effect in other states, especially up the Northeast, where it's that much more. They're still in the thick of it with the fourth surge. Louisiana, by the way, as of Friday, was down to 838 COVID-19 patients in the hospital. 838. Remember back, it was August 17th where we hit 3,022. So we're now down to close to a fourth of that. Anyway, like I said, we'll have more on that story and news at the bottom of the hour. When we come back, Richard Condon is going to stop in. Condon's Countdown. We do it every single Monday morning at 6:35, so can't wait to dig in there. Hey, before we get you to news at the bottom of the hour, I got to tell you about the folks over at Mathern's Market. 2 locations, 3rd Street downtown, and Nicholson at Skip Burtman Drive. I got to swing by Mathern's on Saturday. Went and swung in and grabbed a couple snacks before heading upstairs to go produce LSU football. There was no shortage of folks lined up at Mathern's for everything from cold beer to hot food to a poncho. You name it, on Saturday. It was happening at Mathern's. Look, all week long, they've got specials going on. If you've not yet signed up for their rewards program, you need to. It's as simple as just giving them your phone number while you're in line. Get yourself signed up. Start earning some rewards towards free lunches, discounts on groceries, and more at both locations of Mathern's. Downtown on 3rd or Nicholson and Skip Burtman Drive from Mathern's Market. Tiffany says, "You're breaking my heart, Haldane. I liked the movie, and now I want more." So yeah, I think my expectations were just too high. It wasn't a bad movie. It just, for everything that it could have been, it left me disappointed. Troy says, Brian, Auburn is not good. Okay, well, tell the Associated Press and tell the rest of the coaches in college football. I would like every conversation to start with, should Jimbo Fisher be fired? Every conversation about Coach O should start with, should Jimbo Fisher be fired? And yeah, Bo Nix is inaccurate, to be sure. But so is Max Johnson. I want to say Bo Nix was at like 53% completion and Max Johnson was at 56%. Our defensive backs did a phenomenal job. You can't cover somebody all night long. But what happened with that was not something that's going to be replicated. What happened with Bo Nix scrambling around and scrambling, it's not something that's going to be replicated. Just slipping through people left and right. Why so intense? It's just folks' opinions. What do you mean? About the movie? Yeah, so I'm torn on this one too because they look like poo-poo for 3 quarters, but the NFL is built off of parity. There should never be a time where a team is 0-4 because then you've gone through a quarter of your schedule without a win. Well, actually, it's not even a quarter now that we got 17 games. Anyway, it's just the NFL's built on parity.
But who does this
you
help?
Folded you folded.
Like, this doesn't even really help the Giants, even though they may think that now. If they're starting off the season 0-3,
yeah,
then you might as well just start tanking for picks because, God, the Giants annoy me. But the fact that they got Daniel Jones all these weapons, but they still end up sucking, but Daniel Jones actually played really good. Like, this is like the last year for Giants fans that I've heard from. Like, this is their last year of faith with Daniel Jones, but he's arguably their best player.
Saquon Barkley's their best player.
Well, I mean, Saquon Barkley, but he's been coming back from injury. He's had a great game these last 2 games, but the first 2 weeks he wasn't really that.
Oh, about why so passionate? Why so intense about coaching? Because if you've been an LSU fan for any period of time, you know this is what we do. We post up 1 loss, and all of a sudden everybody wants the coach fired. 2 losses this year. Everyone wants the coach fired. We're 2 years removed. We're in our 2nd year removed from a national championship. In the first year, I don't know why it counts at all. Like, if we'd gone back, if you rewind the clock, and we don't play the COVID season, which was on the table as an option at the time, LSU, like, 2019 has been erased from everybody's memory as far as Coach O's resume is concerned. That's why I'm passionate about it. You don't just fire people willy-nilly.
I'm in Coach O's corner. That's not changing anytime soon. Unless he does something drastic. But I think he's the right guy.
What, Coach O?
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, like, it's weird because long-term we're not going to know, like, until we get long-term.
Yeah.
But he did win a national championship.
You can't just let that be like, oh, Joe Burrow carried you. No, he didn't.
I like O, but the hires have not been great, to be honest. Oh, wait. It says, do you have a telephone number for the AP? Yes, every single well, I don't have a telephone number, but they're all available on social.
I just realized what time it is on the timesheet.
What up, T-Bob?
think we're going to have a very interesting guest joining us in a few seconds. Speak of the devil.
Yes, sir.
Good morning. So, how big the girls want on Saturday? What, no?
We lost. First loss of the season.
Oh, dude, I thought you felt pretty confident about
I
it.
felt very confident about it.
I wasn't trying to be mean.
No, I know. Well, I mean, I didn't imagine you were, watching it on ESPN Plus. No, we just 9:45 a.m. game. Girls walked in tired, played tired. Fourth grade girls. What do you want consistency here? Gotcha. I'm gonna push you back to the next segment. Oh, come on, Eric. Everybody wants me fired. What are we covering this morning?
Everybody wants me fired. Wow. Glad I don't do that type of radio, Brian. No way.
We're talking football? We're talking anything else?
Wow. Got a couple there.
Okay. .637 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Time to welcome in Richard Condon from Condon Uncensored right down the hall on Eagle 98.1. Rich, what's happening, man?
Well, I'll tell you one thing, B. I want to bring up Dana Harris Johnson. See, let me tell you this. Brian, I've been to the Walmart over the years just a couple of times because they were close to the house. I didn't have any place. I really wanted to go, so I was passing the Walmart. Let me tell you, I have never been to a Walmart where I even saw 19 women I would ask out if I was single, let alone take pictures of 19 women when they bent over to get something off a shelf. If I was a perv, now I'm just telling you, if God gave me the big PG and he said, Rich, you're a little perv, so go out there and try to take a picture of some woman's private stuff, Walmart would not be my first choice. I think I could hang out at a Walmart for years. I'll sit back and wait for somebody else to walk in.
Right.
19 videos of women shopping at the Walmart. Wow, Dana. I'm glad that guy was never my wingman. That is unbelievable.
I mean, yeah,
Let's go get some strange at the Walmart.
You got to wonder, is there anybody that walked through the front door that he just said, nah, I'm a pass?
Is that incredible? Wow.
Hey,
Mike, what are you doing this weekend? Man, I got to work in the yard. Got to take the kids. We got a soccer game at 1. My other one's got a t-ball game at 3. And then my wife's going to her mama's, and then I'm going to go to Walmart and take some pictures of women's private parts. Hell yeah, what a day. It's amazing. You think when it was in there shopping some garbage bags, got a plastic trash can, got some batteries? Wow. Let me tell you something, babe.
Yeah.
I remember, when they say the good old days. And I'm there now. I talk about the good old days, too. You follow me?
Oh, so do I.
When these self-centered young couples didn't have to go to Aruba to get married. We went to the VFW hall, Uncle Joe's picking up one of the ring girls. They doing it in the closet. You know, those days. Or when guys didn't walk in front of their dates. Those days. And we had the kids who got cut because they weren't good enough because their parents think they're great athletes and they're going to win the Heisman even though the old man, he got cut from the band in high school. You remember those days?
I do.
All of those days, right?
Yeah.
Man, now when I see a dude on the cover of Playboy, I know it's my time to go.
Wait, I don't know about this story.
Digital cover, that's exactly right. A guy from the Philippines is on the cover of Playboy. And I'm going to tell you something. My grandson, I've been hiding all my old Playboy so that when he's born, bada bing, when he becomes a teenager, now they're even valued even more.
There's a dude on the cover of Playboy?
What's that?
There's a dude on the cover of Playboy.
I think Playboy's only digital now. Yeah, but it's a dude. He's wearing a little white bow tie, wearing girls' lingerie on the cover of Playboy.
I don't understand.
If you catch your son with that Playboy, well, I'd sit him down.
I don't understand.
I don't either, B. That's why I brought it.
I don't understand. All right, I'm baffled.
And how about this loser up in North Louisiana? I forget the jackass's name. Some 23-year-old. So that Saturday morning in the trailer park, he's this little 2-year-old just wandering all over the place. You follow me? A cow could fall on him. He's just wandering all over the place. A tornado could come through. That's where they normally go. He's just wandering all over the place. So all of a sudden they put his picture on TV, and everybody goes, yeah, that's little Johnny over at the trailer park. Police show up. They banging on the trailer park door. Nobody comes to the door. They walk in. Guess what? His jackass dad is inside playing video games with a headphone on.
Well,
That's his kid wandering around. His kid's wandering around. Route 2, box 23. Somebody's putting together bales of hay. That's right. And look, I was telling Anna this morning because she always starts off with, how was your weekend? You follow me?
How was your weekend?
So guess what I was? Great. Guess what I told Anna this morning?
What?
I educated her on who Cornack the Magnificent was. You remember Johnny Carson?
Whoa, you don't. Okay, Anna doesn't know.
That's not Anna's fault. She was fired out of there in, I think, 95. So look, here's the deal. The deal is that Cornack the Magnificent, because I know what she was going to ask me, how my weekend was.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Alabama, they covered the 18.5.
Right.
Drew Brees gets passed on the all-time passing yardage list, right? Saints blow a fourth-quarter double-digit lead. LSU blows a fourth-quarter 9-point lead.
Right.
So besides that, weekend was great. How was yours? And then, of course, I got my boy over there with a little sneaky poo with his little Polaroid. And then I got 3 more people shot yesterday in this town. Oh, you know what we got to do? You saw that new group in the paper? They got all their little cute T-shirts and they're going to fight crowd?
Yeah.
Please. Oh, let's release more balloons. That'll do it. Hey, give me 2 candles because that'll really show those no good son of a bucket. Can we stop all that nonsense? And I want leaders in this city, that's right, Broom, you. I want leaders in this city to hold a little press conference and say, look, I'm not talking about the shootings. I'm talking about what caused the shootings because we have mamas producing multiple bambinos with multiple estuddos. That's the problem. And they grow up in that damn home, and we wonder why there's so many shootings. You think all this frivolous crap, and God bless the Big Brother program, and God bless this and volunteers, that's not going to change a damn thing.
It's not about, and you're not hating on the people that are getting up to do something. It's the idea that we're propping this up like it's going to be effective.
Too many groups and too many positive images and messages we need to send these people and become productive. They don't care. They're not going to do it. And as long as we got the damn breakdown of the home where mom and dad are not together, and you know all these guys there, they think every kid's a little gold guy on a little wooden block holding a wreath up in the air. Like they just got their trophy. So, that's the problem. Broom doesn't address it. She never does.
How's the mayor supposed to fix that, though?
Because you keep saying about everything else. Go to her Facebook page. COVID this, COVID this. Where's parenting? Parental values.
Right.
Become a responsible adult. How come she never says that?
But, okay.
No, I'm asking you. How come she never says it?
What jurisdictions does the mayor have over determining what a family is?
I mean, some of the stuff she posts on there is ridiculous. What point is that?
No.
What's the biggest issue in this town, Brian, right now? What's the biggest issue?
Biggest issue in this town right now?
Poor parenting that leads to shots being fired down the road. Bottom line. Nope, that's it. You know why you're not shooting people in Mandeville? You were raised right. You know why I'm not shooting people in the channel? I was raised right. You know why I haven't been in and out of East Baton Rouge Parish Prison? Because I was raised right. Until these young people get raised right, nothing's going to change.
What I'm saying,
you can go ahead and skirt around the issue, do it all you want. It's not about skin color.
I'm not skirting around the issue.
It's about people being raised in dysfunctional homes.
I'm saying, how do you blame a mayor for the disruption of the family?
Message. Just speak from the heart.
Yeah.
I am tired of these young people having kids, and they think it's a hobby. They think it's a game. The more they have, the more we got to pay for them. Stop doing it. How come she doesn't do that? That's not a positive message?
What?
It's not. She could not say that.
No, I'm saying you tell me where in the mayor's job description it's determining what.
Why don't you go to her official Facebook page and why is it her job to post new business opening up here? And it's always one part of town. It's always
economic development is the part of her job.
And then guess what? There's a lot of fancy boutiques opening up on Highland Road too. How come she's not promoting those?
That's a good question.
No, man, come on.
But
I mean, a mayor could at least make it look good. Say, here's the problem: be a responsible teenager. Be respectful of your elders.
Yeah.
Appreciate our law enforcement and the men and women who have sacrificed and given their lives so that you can live in the greatest country in the world and have an opportunity to act right in it. There's a lot of countries you can move to and be a barbarian, and guess what? It's good. Good. Nice job. Not here.
That I can get down with.
Okay. Yeah. I'm waiting for the mayor to say something about good parenting. One time, you're in your second term. I want to hear one press conference, one radio interview where all you talk about is good parenting. That's it.
But you're
You've
going to tell
addressed
me.
everything else. We know about the drainage. We get you.
All right, you got to get back down the hall.
Ridiculous.
You're being summoned again.
By the way, I never thought I'd live long enough to see Kentucky 5-0 and LSU 3-2. Everybody have a blessed day, baby.
Thank
Guess
you,
what?
Rich.
Get the girls together. That's bullcrap. Y'all want to lose a
So good. All right, he got called back down the hallway. There's a lot to unpack from that, but we got to check traffic. We got to check your money now. We'll come back right after this, right here on Talk 107.3.
Good God Almighty. So what do I write down for the post?
Do what?
What do I write for that?
I don't know. Condon starts your Monday off by lighting a fire.
Yeah.
Maybe the dude was studying the structural limitations of yoga pants. So I was going to make a yoga pants joke while he was in here and just didn't want to step on him.
I'm just going to say it quickly turns into a rant.
Yes.
A rant.
The only problem there is if anybody in government were to start telling people how to raise their kids or limit where they can and cannot have kids, you know that, where do you come off telling me? Like, you know it would go just as bad that way.
Because it's like, how could you be so self-righteous to tell me how to raise my family?
Yeah.
That's never going to go well. You can tell me if this isn't good or.
I shouldn't have this, but at the end of it, I just said if you're entertained by a grown man screaming about policies, this is for you.
Leave that out.
Leave that out?
Yeah. BRPT, I know. I'm not gonna have time before your money now. So. Oh wait. This is a minute-long spot. All right, stop it after this before traffic, and I'll fill till your money now. After traffic.
After this promo, your money now hits.
Yeah. Okay. So you play traffic after your money now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna hit. There's gonna be 8 seconds going over.
Okay.
Should I just like get you in for a quick sec or not? 8 seconds of silence.
No, not 8 seconds of silence. I'll fill it. Mm. Don't forget to download the all-new Talk 107.3 mobile app presented by Gregory Ricks and Associates. Listen live, listen on demand with the Talk 107.3 mobile app.
So are we done with the COVID stuff for this hour? We're just done with those cuts.
Yeah, I'm done with them.
So we're just gonna be talking about NFIP.
Yep. Hey! Morning, Christy. Just seeing this text. at traffic right here. .653 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Thanks again to Richard Condon for stopping by. There's a lot to unpack from that. I wouldn't even know where to begin. I legit would not know where to begin unpacking any of that. We're gonna have more on that story about the guy with the upskirt pictures at Walmart in our top stories and trending coming up next hour. Right now, though, U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy getting folks primed, getting ready for this. Your flood insurance is about to go up. Senator Cassidy's unhappy with huge premium increases coming for those on the National Flood Insurance Program. FEMA's Risk Rate 2.0, which took effect on October 1st, and you heard about this a little bit in our news at the bottom of the hour, which took effect on October 1st, will mean huge increases in the cost of flood coverage for those who live closest to water and for many who do not. In fact, I grabbed this from WBRZ, but it's originally from the Associated Press. The headline reads, Louisiana braces for flood insurance sticker shock. Just how bad is it going to be? Well, Cassidy says it's unrealistic how bad it's going to be. Senator Cassidy says the hikes are unrealistic. About 20% of those covered under NFIP are not going to be able to afford what's coming.
As many as 900,000 policyholders in the NFIP would end up dropping their coverage.
Now's not the time for folks to be dropping coverage. I mean, we saw what happened this May. We all went through 2016. We know what happens when, well, folks who aren't in the floodplain, folks who don't necessarily have to have coverage, go without coverage, they can get hit too. Well, this is talking about the NFIP, which is the folks that most need the coverage that are going to end up falling to the wayside. Cassidy says some are going to see flood insurance increases of 100% or more, a doubling of flood insurance. He says the result will be fewer NFIP holders at lower risk to spread costs over, meaning those at higher risk will pay even more and quite likely just drop the coverage altogether. It's the it's the law of diminishing returns,
which continues the vicious cycle of an actuarial death spiral where eventually the program becomes non-sustainable.
Senator Cassidy says NFIP has been criticized as, quote, federally subsidized insurance for millionaires' beach homes, which he says is far from the truth, which if you live in Louisiana, you know full well that's far from the truth. I get where the national perspective would come from that, but if you're down here, you know it's different. Cassidy says NFIP data shows the majority of covered homes range in the value from $220,000 to $400,000. He says that the cost increases are injurious to homeowners, and they're quite frankly impractical.
So these are working families who are trying to make ends meet, and suddenly they're no longer able to protect themselves. FEMA is not being upfront about these costs in the out years, and that is what has set up our actuarial death spiral.
Now, the senator did bring up legislation to address this. That legislation did fall short. So we are where we're going to be then. By the way, Representatives Steve Scalise and Garrett Graves in a letter urging that same delay that Senator Cassidy had proposed legislation on. They wrote that they used an example that a LaRose homeowner seeking a new flood insurance policy was quoted a $572 annual premium to take effect September 30th. When the policy shifted on the October 8th start date, the yearly premium was quoted at $5,531. Now, that's probably the most extreme example possible, right? To go from $572 annual premium to $5,531. I don't think you're going to get a much more extreme possibility than that, but nonetheless, if that's on the table at all for anybody, then you know it's going to be bad. From the Associated Press story, they quote the number of payouts as the main reason driving the new rate change, saying the program collected $60 billion in premiums over the last 50 years, but paid out $96 billion in claims. Which, yeah, if that's the way it's played out. But bear in mind, that's over 50 years. Anyway, if you're part of the NFIP, get ready for sticker shock, as the Associated Press calls it. Hey, we've got the CBS World News Roundup coming your way in just a little bit. Next hour, we've got Medical Monday and Stephen Wagaspack from LABI hopping on board. Looking forward to both of those conversations. We will also have top stories and trending coming your way next hour. We will also have the outside in with a number of stories from outside of East Baton Rouge Parish coming your way next hour as well. Before we get to news, though, got to remind you about the folks over at Baton Rouge Physical Therapy. They've got 6 locations throughout the greater Baton Rouge area. They have been around for just about 60 years. And I tell you that because it means they've experienced everything under the sun when it comes to physical therapy. And whatever the pain is that's nagging you, and I'm not talking about recovering from a major accident or injury, I'm talking about those everyday pains, those little things that keep us from being our best selves, whether it be having been hunched over a computer every day, or maybe you lift things the wrong way and you have back pain, neck pain, shoulder, knee, you name it. They can help you out. And they're going to treat you like family. They're going to take time to truly understand your unique circumstances, including any anxieties or frustrations you might have about tackling the nagging pain. Yes, sometimes we just learn to live with the pain and move on. Well, this is about working through it and getting back to being your best you. Visit brptlake.com, brptlake.com, to find the location that's nearest to you. Call and set up a free screening, 917-9185, 917-9185. Get on the path to being your best you with Baton Rouge Physical Therapy. I have to run downstairs real quick. I have one piece of show prep I forgot to print. I'll be right back. What's the difference between the top and bottom numbers, and which is more important? Sharpen the damn text. Okay. If I have high blood pressure, can't I just diet and exercise? What is the health? Do what? Okay. Susan Sarandon? Okay. .706 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way. We got Medical Monday coming up this hour. We got Stephen Wagasback from the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry coming your way this hour. Looking forward to both of those conversations. We're going to be talking hypertension in our Medical Monday segment today, which is something that I don't think we pay enough attention to overall. Anyway, that's all still to come. Right now, though, we've got top stories and trending. Let's go. That's the story Richard was talking about a half an hour ago when Condon was in here. A man was arrested after admitting to filming women in a grocery store without their consent. East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office said 29-year-old Dana Harris Johnson was arrested at the Walmart on College Drive Saturday around 1 p.m. Deputies said he admitted to having 19 videos on his phone that he had taken of women while they were bending over to grab items in the store. Arrest documents noted all the women were wearing dresses, skirts, and shorts. Harris prison for video voyeurism. His bond was set at $5,000. Authorities responded, to a shooting near the 3300 block of Geronimo Street that left one person injured Sunday afternoon. Baton Rouge police say the victim sustained non-life-threatening injuries and is expected to survive. That being said, it's one of multiple shootings from over the weekend. Two people were wounded in a shooting south of Winburn Avenue over the weekend as well, according to the Baton Rouge Police Department. The shooting took place around 7 p.m. in the 3700 block of Eaton Street, according to Sergeant Don Capola. The victims were rushed to a local hospital. Capola said the injuries didn't appear to be life-threatening. No word on suspects nor motive at this time. Firearm in a firearm-free zone, aggravated assault, and simple possession of marijuana. Sorry, give me one quick second. Number one takes us back to Friday for another shooting. Police are investigating gunfire along a busy stretch of Government Street near the Garden District. The shooting happened around 1:15 on Friday. Government at St. Rose Avenue, a short distance from Baton Rouge Magnet High. Sources said one person was struck by gunfire, was expected to survive. There's no additional details came out over the weekend about this shooting. That is a look at your top stories. Here's a look at what's trending this morning. For the first time ever, an ocean drone has captured video from inside a hurricane. A sail drone captured video inside a Category 4 storm. Sam was the one out in the Atlantic. NOAA teamed up with Sail Drone Incorporated to send the drone into the hurricane to collect critical forecasting data. The Sail Drone Explorer SD-1045 has been battling 50-foot waves and winds of over 120 miles an hour. The sail drone includes a hurricane wing that allows it to operate in those extreme winds. The video captures the winds and waves in action. The data collected is expected to improve forecast models that predict rapid intensification of hurricanes. Rapid intensification is when a storm wind increases, the speed of the wind, I should say, increases at least 35 miles per hour within 24 hours. Improved forecast models will help better prepare communities in storm's path by giving earlier warnings. So, the thought of a drone being able to survive inside of a hurricane with 120-plus mile-an-hour winds, pretty fantastic, and yeah, they got it done. Got a good look at the inside of Sam. So that's your top stories of trending. By the way, Sam's not the only storm that's out there. Victor is still petering around right now. If you're looking at the hurricane map, it's a tropical depression, is Victor. Not expected to do a whole lot. There is one other blip on the hurricane radar, and that is a disturbance, a large area of disorganized cloudiness and showers over the southeastern Bahamas. And right now it's showing a 0% chance of showing any formation over the next 48 hours, just a 10% chance of formation over the next 5 days. Let's look at your top stories. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll have Medical Monday presented by Our Lady of the Lake. Before we take that break, though, got to tell you about the folks over at Complete Collision Center. Thankfully, we don't have to deal with accidents every single day. But when you do, should you find yourself in an accident, your best repair option in the greater Baton Rouge area is Complete Collision Center. One of the only shops around holding the distinguished iCar Gold Class certification that puts them in the top 15% of body shops nationwide. The iCar Gold Class certification is a commitment to continued education when it comes to crumple zones, redundancies in safety, getting your family back out on the road safely. Plus, they're certified by more than a dozen major car manufacturers. The people who make the cars say Complete Collision Center knows how to fix your car. Why would you even think of taking it anywhere else? Plus, they're going to make the process hassle-free for you as well. They take over that battle with the insurance company, the negotiation process with the insurance company that comes around every single time. The insurance company's trying to cut costs. Complete Collision Center, trying to make sure you are repaired safely, getting your family back onto the road safely. Get your free quote online now at CompleteCollision.com. CompleteCollision.com. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Check out CompleteCollision.com. Janis Joplin, yes. How many promos? How long are they? Yeah, don't worry about them. Leave them. They're 10s. Joplin, yes, Janis Joplin. Very famous folk singer from the 60s. Yes. Yes, it is time for Medical Monday, and we're going to talk a little hypertension today. Time to welcome in Dr. Tyler Boudreau to the show. Good morning, Doc. How are you?
Hey, Brian. How's it going? Thanks for having me here.
Glad to have you on here. Glad to be talking about this because this is something that flies under the radar until it's too late for too many folks in Louisiana. So it's definitely something that we should be addressing at some point. Let's start off with the basics. What is hypertension?
Yeah, it's a good question. So hypertension is really the medical term for high blood pressure. And now that may seem like a mundane or benign thing, but as we get older, we know that's going to affect us more and more. This can kind of go under the radar until it becomes a problem. It can lead to things like strokes, heart attacks, or even kidney disease.
What causes it?
You know, another good question. We're not exactly sure what causes it. Things that play into it, though, things that are common in kind of South Louisiana, kind of being overweight, lack of physical activity, smoking, and then stuff that if someone already has high blood pressure, things that can make it worse is eating too much salt, becoming too stressed or being too anxious. So all these things kind of play into it and can kind of worsen the problem that's already there.
When it comes to the causes, though, I mean, they seem. Let me re-ask this one. Is there a difference between high blood pressure and hypertension? Is there like a dropping off point where it says, okay, you've now entered a danger zone type of area?
Yes, we like to watch patients all over the spectrum of their blood pressures. And so 120/80 is basically the standard. Whenever you get into the 130s, that's basically when it becomes a problem, and it's a red flag on our charts and in our mind. And really, when the top number is above 130, we need to know about that. And definitely when it gets into the 140s, we probably need to start those patients on high blood pressure medication and keep them safe. That way we can keep them at the hospital and keep them from developing those down the road problems like the strokes and heart attacks.
What are the early symptoms of hypertension?
Well, as we know, high blood pressure or hypertension is called the silent killer because it kind of steadily and slowly gets worse as we get older or kind of go through life. So sometimes our bodies might not notice the difference, or we might, in our minds, not notice the difference. If it goes up in a short period of time, though, we can have symptoms like headaches and more scary things like vision changes, or we might sense a throbbing in our ears. So things like that, or just feeling unwell in general.
So you mentioned the risk of stroke down the road. I would assume that there are multiple reasons why we should care if we have hypertension or high blood pressure.
Oh, yeah. So stroke is definitely, high blood pressure is definitely one of the leading causes of stroke. And that's across all genders, all ages, all ethnicities. And so with strokes, only about 50% of people regain those functions. And so that's one of the most devastating events in a life is a stroke. So we definitely want to do everything that we can to prevent that from happening.
How do we treat it? What's done once you're diagnosed with high blood pressure or hypertension? How is it treated?
Right. So if someone gets the diagnosis of hypertension, we can do a few things. The first thing we like to do is talk with the patient, see if we can kind of tailor the things that they're doing at home to decrease some risk factors, maybe decrease some stress, or improve their diet or their salt intake. Now, we try to do that for about 3 to 6 months if their numbers are okay, and we work with the patient. But however, if those numbers get into the 140s or higher than that, then we like to start those patients on high blood pressure medication. Now, there's a whole host of medications we can choose. If they have other stuff in the background, we can kind of cater to their needs as far as their medications. It can range from once-a-day pill to a twice-a-day pill, depending on how bad it is and what else is going on. But rest assured, there's plenty of medications, there's plenty of treatments, and we can get this under control.
Yeah, I want to talk about some more of those treatments in a minute, but you brought up with the top number. You keep mentioning the top number on the blood pressure. What's the difference between the top and bottom numbers, and is one more important than the other?
Right, so that was kind of a trick that I threw out there. So there is a difference in the top and the bottom number. So the top number is the one that kind of gets the publicity. It's an easy one to remember. Is anything higher than 130 is really a problem or a red flag for us that we need to know about. So the top number is the pressure in our arteries whenever the heart is squeezing. On the flip side, the bottom number, we like to have that under 80, and that is the pressure in our arteries whenever the heart's at rest. And so there's more information about the top number. However, we have a lot of colleagues, my colleagues specifically, that are looking at the bottom number to see how important that is. But overall, they're both very important. Just the top one's easier to talk about.
It's easier to talk about, but is it more important than the other one? I mean, I would think they would both be. I mean, you just basically said they're both equally important. At rest, at rest sounds dangerous too.
Yeah, to answer your question, yes or no, I'd say they're both equally important. So we definitely look at both numbers. If one's high, then we're going to treat it. If the other's high, we're going to treat it as well. So we treat them independently, and we definitely respect both those numbers. But it's a good point. Whenever we're at rest and our heart's at rest, we care about that number too. So we don't want our blood vessels all tight and everything whenever our heart's at rest. So we like to keep that bottom number low too.
So 120 over 80 is ideal. You get above 130, you start to worry a little bit. Does that vary at all based off of age, size, weight, height? Are there any contributing factors about people individually that would change what the ideal blood pressure would be?
You know, I used to work with cardiologists, and patients would ask them all the time. And we had patients that were anywhere from 4 foot to 7 foot, and they would always ask the cardiologist the same question. But really what we found is that everybody's blood pressure, we tend to treat it the same. We like to always have those numbers less than 130 over 80. The trick comes in whenever people are of different ethnicities. They are affected by high blood pressure in different ways. And so we know that with African Americans, their kidneys are way more affected by high blood pressure than maybe other ethnicities. So it is definitely important to know that, all those background factors. However, between males and females and different heights, I would say there's not much of a difference. It's more the ethnicity.
We got Dr. Tyler Boudreau talking hypertension this morning as part of our Medical Monday segment. Doc, got to ask you about treatments now, because there are a number of varying factors that contribute to high blood pressure. Containing those individual factors, to me, it seems like if you can eat your way into it, why can't you diet your way out of it? Type of scenario. Is losing weight and balancing your diet enough to get you out of a hypertension situation?
Well, if over the long term, like I said before, we like to have those patients for about 3 to 6 months try to improve their diet, try to improve how much salt they take into their diet, because we know that really can help a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I say a little bit because we know that if we decrease the salt in our diet, maybe to less than 1,500, 1,200 milligrams, then we can get that top number down about 5 to 7 points. Now, if their blood pressure is 150, 5 to 7 points is good, but it's not getting them to where we need it to be, less than 130. And so typically, the diet and exercise is definitely something we encourage and promote. However, a lot of times it's not everything that needs to be done.
You mentioned the exercise. How big of a factor is that when it comes to maintaining your overall? Well, I would imagine for the top number, the exercise would help a lot more. How big of a factor is that in lowering blood pressure?
I think exercise is a big component. That's something like I said, we promote every day, diet and exercise. And exercise, it also helps with heart rate too. And so the blood pressure is not the only force that's on the vessels of our body. It's the heart rate too. And we know constant exercise will help decrease our heart rate. So that decreases those shearing forces in our blood vessels. But we know that diet and exercise can decrease both the bottom and the top number too.
Okay, let's talk about that for just a second. What's the difference between heart rate and blood pressure? Because wouldn't those two things correlate as rapidly as it's pumping?
So they definitely correlate, and I can get real into the weeds of it. But
okay.
Basically, the blood pressure is the force of which blood goes through the vessels. So maybe like the pulsing sensation that we sometimes feel. Mm-hmm. And the heart rate is how fast our heart pumps and pumps blood through the vessels and through our heart. And so they definitely go hand in hand as far as putting pressure on the walls of our arteries and blood vessels. And if both those numbers are high, then that can put extra strain and pressure, and that can lead to changes that can lead to strokes and a heart attack. So if I had to put one over the other, I would say blood pressure is more important than heart rate.
Okay.
But overall, still both important.
Got about 2.5 minutes left before we're going to close out and move on to our news. We haven't talked about sleep yet. What level of importance does sleep play into this whole scenario?
Very, very important. Actually, yesterday I was looking at a Sleep Number bed, and those get very expensive, and just a regular mattress is really expensive. But regardless, sleep is very important. And we know kind of through the COVID-19 pandemic, some people are putting on extra weight, and we have seen increased numbers of sleep apnea. Mm-hmm. Now, whenever we put on that extra weight, it's more weight for our lungs to breathe against. And if people develop sleep apnea, then that can increase their blood pressure as well. And whenever we don't get enough sleep, that can also increase the stress levels in our body, the anxiety levels in our body, and that can also worsen the problem if it's already there of high blood pressure. So it's definitely important, something that definitely needs to be talked about. We need to be aware of it too.
Well, I want to go back to the treatment one more time before I get you out of here, and I greatly appreciate your time with all of this. Going back to the treatment as well, a lot of people have fear of a blood pressure medication because it feels like once they're on it, they're going to be on it for the rest of their lives. Do we see where people can, like if they don't kick the weight and other habits in the first 3 to 6 months, they get on the blood pressure medication? Is there still a path towards getting yourself back to health without medication?
That's a good question and a loaded question. So we unfortunately do see a lot of patients who get on that blood pressure medication and they think, oh, my doctor's working on it, this pill's working on it, I can kind of take off and kind of go back to what I was doing. And so that's the situation that we really worry about because, yes, the medication works. However, if we're not doing the right things in the background, then our body is just going to auto-regulate and increase that blood pressure again. And that's when patients have to get on a second medication or on a third medication. And so I think what we need to know is what the blood pressure is from the get-go, and if we need a medication, then we need to start it, and then do those things in the background like watch our diet, watch our exercise, and so hopefully we can get off, because we definitely have patients who can get off those blood pressure medications.
Don't use it as a false sense of security. Thank you so much, Dr. Tyler Boudreau, a wealth of information. I appreciate you hopping on this morning.
Thanks. Have a great morning.
You do the same. Here comes CBS News. We're like 5 seconds late. I had the other question written down. I didn't know if I wanted to get to it or not. I'm like, there's no way I can't ask about this because it's such a good, like, the false sense of security that comes from having a medication. It's like, oh, I could do this, this, and this because I'm already on medication. No, I'm saying I covered it already. I did ask the question.
Tom Brady becomes the fourth quarterback in history to beat all 32 NFL teams.
Nice. So Tom Brady went back in New England, got a win before Mac Jones got a win in New England. Didn't say that. Do what?
There's like this whole media rivalry between Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Do you stand on either side of the fence?
Oh yeah, in the grand scheme of things, if I'm gonna pick a side, it's gonna be Brady's.
Talk 107.3. Wonderful. We're on break at the moment, but we'll get live momentarily when we get you on.
Steven.
Yo, what you want to cover here?
Tiffy says the ads for that game were amazing. Whoever came up with the idea for the Adele song and those perfectly timed clips, they deserve a raise. Wait, what am I missing? Wait, what game? What Adele song? I'm lost. Okay. Weather. Patriots Bucks. I didn't watch the game. I was helping the freshman with her homework. Emphasis on the helping, not doing. Trying not to use passive sentences in an essay is difficult. Yeah, don't we all? 738 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Every Monday we get the chance to get caught up with the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Stephen Wagasback joins us right now. Stephen, good Monday morning. How are you, sir?
Well, Brian, I was in Death Valley on Saturday and the Dome on Sunday, so why don't you tell me how I was?
You're ready to shake the stink of the weekend off, man. It was a rough go. Look, hey, and it didn't just stop right there. If you're a Sopranos fan and the Many Saints of Newark came out, left a lot of people just looking like that was a stinker. Our Lady of Mercy, fourth grade girls basketball, lacked offense like the Saints. I mean, it was just a rough weekend from start to finish.
Well, at least that fourth grade girls team covered the spread. I won some big money on that game, but everything else, yeah, that was the problem. I think one of the, just like salt in the wound moment for the LSU thing. My college buddies and I, we usually pick one game a year where they come in from out of state, they bring their kids with them. This is where we kind of brainwash their kids to be Tiger fans in other states. And this is the weekend we picked. And so, it's one thing to have that moment. Another thing to kind of watch those kids, get on their airplanes to go back to their respective states with, that look on their face I don't know, man. The purple, we're going to have to sell them hard next year and pick the right game because that was just like a letdown of epic proportions. Let me tell you one other thing about the game that maybe folks aren't talking about is what is the deal with the broken contraflow leaving the stadium? I mean, if you leave on Highland Road after the stadium, this year they are not doing contraflow. They have double lane on Highland, people going in both directions. We sat there for a couple of hours after the game last night. So it's one thing to kind of watch that whole thing on a late kick, and then for I'm sorry, the incompetence of the contraflow is out of control. I mean, they got to fix that as well as a lot of other stuff on the field.
Well, I mean, for the last year, since 2019, we haven't needed it. We didn't need it in 2020 because of the reduced capacity. We haven't needed it up until this Saturday because there weren't enough people in the building to begin with. I'm curious if that's just a matter of it fell to the wayside and they need to get it back together again.
Yeah, but there's certain things in Louisiana that we do enough where we should know we always going to be prepared to do it. It's right now with Hurricane Ida, you got folks saying, where's the temporary housing? How can we not have the solution on that? We have hurricanes every summer. Every summer this happens, we need temporary housing, yet we're surprised every time. Same thing with contraflow. We know there's going to be $100,000 of people in a stadium on a Saturday that we got to get out on our infrastructure. It just blows my mind that every Saturday night there seems to be a surprise bewilderment of, wait, how are we going to get these people out of here? I don't understand it. Don't.
And this was the game y'all used as your recruiting trip.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I mean, and the difference
I'm a
is
little bitter this morning.
if you're bringing in a 5-star recruit and the team is firing on all cylinders, you can look at that 5-star recruit and say you want to come here because you want to be a part of this. If you're bringing in a 5-star recruit and the team is not looking good, you look at that recruit and say you are the answer to solve this. With y'all trying to bring the kids in to recruit them, I mean, you don't have that option there, man.
Yeah, I mean, one of my buddies, lives in Birmingham. He brought in his 2 young sons. They're surrounded by Crimson Tide 364 days out of the year. This is their one day to come in here and be with their brethren, purple and gold. And so, 2019 obviously was huge for them, but man, you should have seen the look on their faces. They had to go back to Alabama and tell the story of how the great legendary Bo Nix led Auburn to this great win. The same Bo Nix who last week had to be benched versus Georgia State for his incompetent play. So, anyway, look, we got to move on. 24-hour rule is in effect, but oosh, that one hurt, dude.
Yeah, it did. You know what I was really hoping for, though? Was Bo Nix march Auburn down the field and in the waning moments of the game throw an interception in the end zone so the headline would read, like father, like son.
I like it.
I mean, that was his
Troy
old
to come back.
Troy
Jr. to come back and
they
make
had
that
him on
pick.
the field.
Oh, was Twilly there?
Yeah, Twilly was there.
Oh, if you could have had Troy Twilly Jr. Pick off Bo Nix Jr. to close that game, that'd have been Bring Back the Magic 2.
Yes, the Magic Encore.
Oh, I love it.
Just could have fed into the lore of that game. Anyway.
Yeah.
Like
Coulda,
you said,
shoulda, woulda.
yep,
Coulda,
got to
woulda.
wash it off. We got a lot going on. Y'all have a lot going on. Louisiana Association of Business and Industry has some events coming up. Tell me about them.
Yeah, look, obviously we're in the middle of, trying to promote the constitutional amendments. We got a road show going on. We're doing some advertising. So we're doing that. But, while all that happens, we still have services to our members. So this week we have our workers' compensation seminar. And if any of your listeners have a workers' compensation issue, they have people on their team who have to manage their workers' comp risk, this is the best seminar in the state. Once a year, your folks have to get their certification anyway. We have it at the Renaissance. It's this Thursday, Friday. We still have a few slots available. At that, you're going to have the best speakers in the state come and kind of tell you what the latest and greatest is, keep you and your team prepared, and we give you all the materials you need so that over the course of the year, you can go back and reference and stay polished and sharp to keep your costs down on that, because workers' comp is a huge cost issue for a lot of our members. And so this is kind of the creme de la creme of seminars. So that's going on this Thursday and Friday, and you can go to our website at LABI.org to sign up. And then next week, we basically do the same thing for our legal partners. And so we have our CLE series next week. We call it Impact Series, and that's also going to be the best of the best. We've got the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. We've got a lot of the redistricting experts who are going to come in. They're going to do their CLE seminars at our offices. You're going to walk away with all the credits you need to stay certified. It's a really easy way. It's a great fun networking opportunity. That's also next week. And so whether it's workers' comp or your legal CLEs, the next week and a half is where you want to go to our website, sign up, and kind of get the best of the best training you and your team need to kind of be prepared for the next year.
Very cool stuff. And, yeah, now is the time. I mean, it's the beginning of the fourth quarter, so if you're looking ahead to next year, now is the time to start getting in line for that. You
had to bring up fourth quarter, didn't you? You had to bring a football reference here.
That was unintentional. So unintentional.
Jeez.
I know. I'm sorry. It's tough to shake it off on this Monday morning. I don't know. I think it's because it was both of them. It was back to back. Everyone stayed up for the late kickoff, late game, and then Saints were at noon. I don't know. It hurt.
Well, and not to pound the LSU thing again, but the other thing is, there have been times over the years in Tiger Stadium when you're watching a team struggle, and you're like, you know what, we just don't have the horses the other team has. We're just outgunned. What's frustrating on this one is, and there's a ton of talent on that roster, a ton. You can see it out there. Obviously, the offensive line has some big shortcomings, but there's a lot of talent out there. But when you can't even get the plays in on time, and you can't, you see that confused what Nick Saban used to call that Brook Trout look. On some of the players, and they're trying to get the plays called in with 1 or 2 seconds left on the clock. That's where you get frustrated, because you're like, that is wasted potential. That is talent not being put in the right position. And that's tough to see, especially when there's so much that goes in, to preparing for that moment, and just to have your team not prepared. That's what's really frustrating.
Yeah, there's frustration with that. I will say this though: what Bo Nix did, I don't think is you're not going to see that repeated. That was just freakish in nature, slipping through that many tackles. Just the level of improbability. I don't like. That's about the redeeming. That's the only redeeming quality heading into the morning or heading into this week is that you're not going to see that again. It was just like Johnny Manziel on his best day.
Well, I hope you're right, because this weekend we go to 5-0 Kentucky, the same Kentucky team that just beat Florida, and if you're into if you want to bring back the Magic too, you better hope a Bluegrass Miracle too this weekend, because we might need it.
Yeah, well, I mean, Kentucky at 5-0 right now. But they're riding a high, and we're coming off a loss. We're primed here. Hey, a little more business to cover. I got to redirect us back on task, or else we talk football all morning long.
Yeah, let's get focused.
So, Congress did not move forward with the infrastructure bill. Kind of, if I'll use a football reference, punted heading into the weekend. How big of a factor is that it did not come to a vote?
Well, this might be one of those cases where nothing happening could be the best case scenario, because last week, as everyone remembers, there was the big, debate. Pelosi had promised that there was going to be an infrastructure vote on the 27th. But then, the progressives in our caucus said they're going to vote against it unless you pass a $3.5 trillion bill. That's a bill that realistically no one really wants except for a handful of the far left up there. So nothing happening was probably the best case scenario, because therefore you still have time to talk some sense into others to stop that. But the concerning part here, though, is that there's still a tie for that infrastructure bill to the spending bill. And what you're hearing now is that what's going to be the revised plan from Pelosi is they'll just lower the cost of that $3.5 trillion bill, not by taking out some of the harmful initiatives, just by taking out some of the years. And so originally that bill is going to be a 10-year bill. They said, we'll just make it a 2-year, a 3-year, or 4-year bill. That way $3.5 trillion turns to $1.5 trillion. Everyone thinks that's a compromise. It's really not. You're still putting these harmful policies in place. You're just only funding for a couple of years. And look, they know that'll work, because when you start a program at the federal government level, if you start for 1 year, 2 year, 10 years, once a program is started, it's almost impossible to take off the books. And they know that. And so they're just going to, come back with another bill in a year or two and say, hey, we got to fund it. You can't cut this program. So our concern now is we have to watch out for the false compromise, the thing that's viewed as a compromise, which actually isn't. And if you turn in a $3.5 trillion spending bill filled with harmful programs and just cut the number of years in half, you're not compromising on anything. You're just trying to fool the public into thinking that it's a compromise. Instead, you're just saying we have to come back in a couple of years and throw more money at it. And that could be a hugely disruptive thing for the free enterprise system.
No, absolutely, because there's nothing stopping them. When you shorten the length of time, there's nothing stopping them from going back to the drawing board and doing it all over again. But like you said, it's not the spending as much as it's the policy that implements the spending.
Absolutely. So whether you do a bad policy for 1 year or 10 years, it doesn't matter. You don't want it on the books in the first place.
Yeah.
And so if they're going to whittle that bill down, you got to cut some of the most harmful programs, the one that are going to drive jobs overseas, the one that are going to shut down the energy sector here, especially in Louisiana. I mean, if you are looking in the Bayou area and you've got people that cannot live locally because there's no temporary housing, their offshore energy has been severely restricted. American energy markets have been squeezed as much as they can. I mean, there's an exodus going on there. We got to make sure we get those folks back. And so putting in place on top of that some programs that are going to put a lot of federal money in to squeeze the American energy sector more, man, you want to talk about really bad timing for South Louisiana.
No, and it couldn't be worse. And at a time where we need a lot of the infrastructure and broadband, that albeit not to the numbers that our legislators would want, but we still need what's in there. In the meanwhile, we'll keep an eye on it every single week. He is Stephen Wagasback from the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Thank you for hopping on board, man.
Go Tigers! Who that Saints? We will rise again.
So LSU goes to Kentucky this weekend. Who's riding the high of beating Florida? Have you seen who Kentucky plays after LSU?
No.
Georgia. We're a trap game, man. We're built to win this one.
Look at you, glass half full. I'm glad I talked to you this morning. You're going to set my week just right. Thanks so much for doing that.
Absolutely.
You're like my little Dr. Phil this morning. Good job.
Well, I'm glad I could help. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, man.
All right, later. Stephen Wagasback. Love having him on every single week. A great perspective from a business perspective. Let's take a break. Come back with the Outside In. We actually are a trap game. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. Yep. It's not healthy, but yeah, I get that way sometimes.
It's not, but it's. I feel way more in tune than I am right now.
.756 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Thanks to Stephen Wagasback for hopping on board from the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Coming up next hour, Louisiana Superintendent of Education, Dr. Cade Brumley, set to join me. Also, Hunt Palmer. You know him from Hunt and Hill on our sister station 104.5. And the pregame and postgame show for LSU football on the LSU Sports Radio Network. Going to talk a little bit about what exactly went wrong last Saturday night. That's coming up at 8:40. Hey, before we get you to the outside in, got to ask you what you're doing for lunch today, and can I interest you in a burger? There is no better way to get rid of the stink that was last weekend than by swinging by Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes and just indulging for lunch. Get yourself a double Diablo. Get yourself a best case scenario. Get yourself the well dunion. It's a burger with onion strings on top of it. Mushroom Swiss is not too shabby either. Had somebody send me a Facebook message over the weekend with a picture of their just glorious-looking double Diablo saying, bro, it did not disappoint. And it's not going to disappoint. Swing by either location. Segan, just north of Industrialplex, or Blue Bonnet at Highland for Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. And don't forget to sign up for the rewards program, all right? Download the Mooyah app. Sign up for Mooyah Rewards. Every dollar you spend is 1 point. 50 points equals a $5 reward. You get a free order of fries just for downloading it in the first place. And it's not just about like spend and get. If you get other friends, if you refer other friends to the app as well, you get more rewards there. Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes, 2 locations. Segan just north of Industrialplex or Blue Bonnet at Highland. Start Monday off with a burger. All right, time for the outside in. Let's get it. We actually got to start off by heading down to New Orleans, where a man was shot to death in the French Quarter early this morning. NOPD is investigating a homicide that occurred around 5:53 a.m. in the 400 block of Burgundy near the intersection with Conti Street. According to WDSU, officers who were dispatched to the shooting discovered the man laying on the sidewalk. Emergency medical services rushed the man to a local hospital where he died. An investigation is underway. Heading next to Assumption Parish, law enforcement is warning residents about a man who's claiming to be a FEMA employee and stealing Social Security numbers. Assumption Parish Sheriff's Office said a man calling himself Larry is acting as if he's working storm-related claims. He asks for your Social Security number, immediately hangs up, and then moves on. That is the Outside In, presented by BRPT Lake, brptlake.com. Here comes CBS News. What happened there? I ate up a full minute with the Mooyah. Okay, that's on me. I did the Mooyah spot there.
You've done segments there before, and then going to outside in, you usually have more time.
Yeah.
I ended up going to Brew at the Zoo on Friday.
Brew at the Zoo, yeah.
Yeah, it was fun, but I could tell from people that have been there before that they sold way too many tickets. There were
Really?
so many people there. Like, there was one person I heard from that goes there every time they have it for her birthday. It was like more than double the usual capacity they had. Like, food was running out, beer was running out within like the first hour and a half.
So, are the mics on?
But yeah, all in all, it was a good time.
Good. Well, Boo at the Zoo is up next, which is fun for the kids.
Are we going to have a segment about that before?
Probably.
Sweet. Jeez.
Excuse me. 8:06, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Hour 3 of Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Brian here with you. Jake Barty producing. Got a busy hour slated for this hour. We're going to talk with Dr. Cade Brumley, our state superintendent of education. What's turned out to be, it's appearing to be a controversial policy coming out last week from Dr. Brumley. Parents' choice. Imagine that, giving parents more of a choice when it comes to how their kids' health is handled is controversial. Parents' choice gives individual school districts the option to take on this policy. If you take on the policy, the parents of children who have close contact with COVID cases can bring their kids home for quarantine or keep them in school. The long-term aim here is to have more kids in school when they're peripherally touching COVID, not necessarily having COVID. That being said, each school district has the chance to opt out of the program. So what's the problem? We'll talk with Dr. Cade Brumley in our next segment about it. Also this hour, Hunt Palmer from Hunt and Hill on 104.5 ESPN is going to join us to talk a little bit about what exactly went wrong with LSU Saturday night. No run game. That's no surprise. We saw that every game this year. But what else? We'll break it down at 8:40. Right now, though, we lead off the 8 o'clock hour as we do every day. Jake's got this day in history.
Good morning, everybody. We're going to start things off.
You need to turn your microphone on.
Good Lord.
There
First
you go.
try.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, good morning, everybody. You know who it is. It's Jake Barty. We're starting things off in 1883. The Orient Express departs on its first official journey from Paris to Istanbul.
Let's get that music bed back underneath just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. There you go.
Just a little bit. There we go.
A little bit.
Just a little bit. Anyways, 1964. Boston Patriots kicker Gino Cappelletti lands 6 from 6 field goals and 3 from 3 conversions in a 39-10 win versus the Denver Broncos at Bear Stadium in Denver.
That's a big day for a kicker right there. It's like I had a rough day. I had to swing my leg 9 times.
Imagine scoring
9 times.
Imagine as a kicker you scored more than double what the opposition team scored the entire game.
You know, Saints in the 80s, that probably happened a lot with Morton Anderson and the Dome Patrol.
I can imagine so, but that's one heck of a fantasy output as well from that kicker.
Big time.
Anyways, we're going to be moving on to 1972. Future Baseball Hall of Famer Ted Williams manages his final game as Texas Rangers lose to KC Royals 4-0 in the last game played at Municipal Stadium.
I fancy myself a bit of a baseball fan, and I had no idea Ted Williams was a manager.
Mm-hmm. He was replaced by Whitey Herzog. Do you know who that is?
Yeah, Whitey Herzog managed the Cardinals for a number of years, especially in the 80s when I hated the Cardinals.
Love that. 1975, an airplane crashes over North Carolina, killing the pilot and severely injuring several pro wrestlers affiliated with the NWA's Mid-Atlantic promotions.
Really?
One of the survivors is the legendary Ric Flair.
Okay.
1988, Pillsbury stock soars from $18.37 to $57.37 on takeover bid.
It kept at 37 cents.
A lot of people probably got rich off that. 1992, Miami Dolphin Louis Oliver returns record-tying interception 103 yards.
Okay.
Good thing there wasn't a DK Metcalf to stop that.
Right.
2018, New England's Tom Brady becomes the only 3rd NFL quarterback to record 500 career touchdown passes as he connects with Josh Gordon in the Patriots' 38-24 win over the Indianapolis Colts at Foxborough.
Yeah, I remember whenever it was hot on Josh Gordon.
And this is a bit of cheating, but yesterday...
I was going to say high on Josh Gordon, then I thought better of it. Get it?
I don't get it.
Oh. You're serious, you don't get it.
I'm actually serious, yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's been suspended a number of times for weed.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, just don't do that. This is a bit of cheating, but yesterday I found out that Tom Brady is the 4th quarterback of all time to beat all 32 NFL teams.
Very nice.
Find that kind of impressive. That'll do it for the events. Let's get right to the birthdays. First up, we have the youngest NBA MVP in history. Derrick Rose turns 33 today.
Nice.
Legend of the game. Susan Sarandon, turns
Susan Sarandon.
close but no cigar. Turns 75 today.
Okay.
Christoph Waltz turns 64.
Mm-hmm.
Great actor. Love that man. Linda McMahon turns 72. And then Jabril Peppers turns 25. You got any birthdays for me?
Many, many, many birthdays.
Let's hear them.
First of all, legendary baseball manager Tony La Russa was born on this day in 1944. Actress Alicia Silverstone turns 45 years old today from Clueless. Clueless.
I think I've heard of that.
And Russell Simmons, the founder of the Def Comedy Jam, among many, many other great productions he's put out. Russell Simmons turns 64 today. Chargers wide receiver Mike Williams' birthday. I only mentioned him because he got me a fantasy win last weekend.
I think he got a lot of people wins.
Yeah, and bringing it back home because I love to mention LSU birthdays. Barkevius Mingo.
When did he play?
You're serious?
No, yeah, I'm serious.
Barkevius Mingo.
Yes.
A few years ago. Kiki Mingo.
New to the scene, man. Sorry.
Wow.
Well, we're going to go right to the deaths. Janis Joplin, she died. She died on this day in 1970. She was a legend of the scene back in her heyday. I think I saw, while I was doing research for this, she was named as one of the greatest artists of the generation and one of the greatest of the century.
Yeah, did Me and Bobby McGee was the name, her biggest one probably. Yeah.
But that's all the deaths that I have. Let's get right to the holidays. First up, we have National Cinnamon Roll Day. We have National Golf Lovers Day. You like a bit of golf?
Yeah, I love golf.
I'll take some golf. Next up, we have National Taco Day. I plan on celebrating this one myself.
Why is that on a Monday?
It probably was made on a Tuesday. And the last one I have, National Vodka Day.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I think
I'll be partaking there for sure.
I think most of us will. But that will conclude this day in history.
All right, yeah, that will conclude this day in history. We're going to take a break here in just a minute. Hey, before we get to that break, though, got to remind you, Talk 107.3, giving you a chance to enjoy a true Louisiana staycation on us at either the Renaissance or Watermark Hotels. Simply take our staycation survey at talk1073.com. You will be instantly registered for one of two staycations each month at the Watermark or Renaissance. We draw for two winners a month, one on this show, one on the Cade show. It's a staycation with the water. You know what? We need to draw our September winners because we're all the way up to, what is it, October 4th? Yeah. All right, we'll announce the September winners probably tomorrow or the next day right here. But we do draw for two winners, one on this show, one on the Cade show. It's a staycation with the Watermark and Renaissance Hotels and Talk 107.3, the new flavor of talk. It's a good doctor. Dr. Brumley. Yeah. Done. Complete collision. I did Mathern's. No, but I might mention him anyway. 818 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. So, every month we get the chance to get caught up with our State Superintendent of Education, Dr. Cade Brumley, and he joins us now. Dr. Brumley, good morning. How are you, sir?
Hey, good morning, man. Last month when we spoke, we were on the ground with Ida and recovery there, and that's doing well. We're making a ton of progress.
You know what? Let's go ahead and start. I wanted to start with parent choice, but we got plenty of time to get to that. But let's start with a recap of where we've been with Ida and what it took to get everybody back up and running.
Oh my goodness, yeah. We right after the storm, we had over 300,000 kids out of school, and as of today, that number's just north of 50,000, somewhere between 50 and 75,000. So we're making a ton of progress. Really want to give a shout out to those educational leaders and teachers in those communities, just because of the tremendous urgency for which they were acting to get their kids back in school in a safe way. And it wasn't just the members of the educational community, but it was, all of the other support organizations and governmental agencies that helped to make that possible. So a long way to go, but progress.
For those 50 to 75,000 that are still out right now, what happens with their school year? Is it readjusted to cover all the way through the summer? Do you triage down the number of days that they're required to go to school? How does it work to get a graduating class of 2022 graduated?
Well, the state of Louisiana has a law that indicates the amount of instructional minutes that children have to have in a given year, and there are certain exceptions that allow for some loosening of that. But what mostly has happened is that systems that have been impacted have adjusted their calendars to make it work so that the kids could get the required amount of instructional minutes. Now, we have some sites where we have such physical damage where schools are going to have to merge together or schools will have to platoon. And under those instances, I have the ability, if I receive a request, for some flexibility from those systems to take a recommendation to my state board to give them a little bit of relief. And so we're working with systems right now on some of that. But, we have taken the position that systems, as much as possible, need to adjust their calendars just because our kids need time with teachers, especially after a year and a half of this pandemic.
Yeah, right now is completely the wrong time for them to be out of school for this long. It's unfortunate, the timing of the whole thing, to be out or to be on the sidelines for that long. That being said, though, it's no doubt we'll eventually get it done. So, moving back to Parent Choice, last week you came out with a program. Tell us all about the nuts and bolts of what Parent Choice actually is when it comes to COVID quarantining.
Yeah. Well, in Louisiana, we presently do not have law or policy around how quarantining has to take place in our school system. So one of the things I wanted to do is just to clarify that is, at this point, a local decision for systems to make decisions in the best interest of their local communities. Now, across the country, you see quarantining rules that look different. In some places, they don't even contact trace. In other places, they're doing test to stay. In other places, they do parent choice. And in other places, they do as we do here over the last year and a half, which is if there's a child that's symptomatic or positive, the school goes around and they determine all the children that have been in contact with that child, and those students go home for a quarantine. And we have done that for a year and a half. And so all that I wanted to do was clarify that this is a local decision, let systems across the state know that I've heard you. I know that you're also concerned about the educational losses that our kids have faced. You're concerned about suicide rates that are up, depression rates that are up, childhood obesity that are up, all these other things that also can be impacted by just having children at school. And so my position was, let local communities make a decision with their medical experts, with their parents, with their educators around how they want to handle quarantine, and let parents have a say in that as well.
So the head of Bessie is calling this quarantine rule concerning. I don't understand. Help me understand if you could. And I know I'm asking you to take not your side, but the side of somebody who's critiquing you. But help me understand how giving local school districts their own power is concerning.
Well, I appreciate everyone's position on this. You know, I have heard the position of a number of different people. I have not mandated quarantining on any system.
Right.
All I have said is that I believe that we should allow local communities, with their parents, with their medical experts, to weigh the risk of COVID versus student learning versus depression versus all of these other risks that have put in jeopardy normalcy over the last year and a half, and make a decision about what works best for them. It's just about local decision making around this particular issue. If a system wants to continue to do quarantining as they have presently done it, then that's fine. That's exactly what I would like them to do because that's their local decision.
What went into this decision from your end, as opposed to just giving out a blanket quarantine rule? What went into that? Were there any kind of criteria? Was it comparison to other states, how they've gotten it done elsewhere?
Yeah, so I've spoken to educators and parents who have been frustrated. Parents who've had their kids out on quarantines 3, 4, 5 times for multiple weeks. Educators who want their kids back in the classrooms. I've spoken to members of the medical community who, I can't go out and give their names, because of other factors, but spoken to them. I've spoken to superintendents in other states that are doing this. There are over a dozen states right now that are doing something similar. And so I just want to return the decision-making process to local communities as much as possible.
The headline is about the head of Bessie. How much positive feedback have you heard about this as well?
Oh man, I've heard a ton of positive feedback around this from parents, from members of the medical community, from legislators, from educators, which is good. I mean, I am in no way saying that a system should not maintain the current quarantine rules that have been in place. If they want to use those, by all means, use those. Mm-hmm. But if a local community thinks that they'd like to try something else, given what we know about COVID after 20 months, I just think that they should be able to do that.
And we've seen so much change throughout every facet of COVID along the way. I'm hard pressed to understand why this would be any different to adapt and grow and kick things down to a local level where local people can make local decisions that matter locally. Anyway,
and we have to, I think we have to manage up or manage down based on where the virus is in terms of its aggressiveness at the time. We've seen like a worldwide, I believe a 35% decrease in cases over the last 2 months, and so you manage up, you manage down is what I've heard from a number of members of the medical community. And if a system elects to use this particular option, which is we're calling parent choice, then if something changes with the virus and there's a shift, then they might have to manage up, or they can manage down. I just think that we have to be flexible in how we're dealing with this pandemic.
We got Dr. Cade Brumley for just a couple more minutes. He's the State Superintendent of Education. Let's move away from parent choice and into some more bigger picture things. What else is your office working on?
Wow, we have what we're really excited about, and I talked about last time, is our Louisiana Comeback Plan, which is centered around 3 areas: attendance and well-being, so having kids in school, having them well when they're with us, physically, mentally, socially, all those different ways. 2, recovering and accelerating learning that has been lost from the pandemic, and 3, professional learning. And we have $4 billion of federal funds that are available to support this. Systems right now across the state are submitting to our office their Louisiana Comeback Plan around how they're going to use their dollars to do those 3 things. And we're really excited about that. We see those plans coming in. We see a lot of hope as a result of those plans. And we think we can have Louisiana come back for our kids educationally.
The calendar over the next couple months, what are we looking at leading into the end of this year? Are we still playing catch up from COVID?
Well, we prefer to use the word recovery. So we're trying to recover where learning has been lost, but also accelerate in other places. So we don't want to be stuck in some form of remediation mode that just continues to go on and on. We believe we need to give our students access to grade level content and supports that they need to be able to be on track. And then for students who are ahead of pace, let's continue to accelerate them. And I believe in our teachers. I believe in our leaders. And I think if we wrap our arms together around these key initiatives, like making sure kids are at school, we know truancy and attendance was a terrible problem over the last year and a half, and we can make sure they're well when they're with us, and then we can actually get to the academic stuff, which, is why most educators went into the business anyway.
Got Dr. Cade Brumley for just another minute or two before we get you out of here, and I appreciate your time this morning. Hey, can we wrap up where we started, and that's getting back to Hurricane Ida and those students that are still out? Is there a timeline on when they're getting back in, makeshift facilities, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so like I said, most of the students have already returned. Those systems that haven't returned so far are basically on a tiered return process. So they have their schools divided in different tiers of damages and their ability to return. And so they continue to work forward on that. Mm-hmm. And I think certainly by the end of this month, we'll see all of our kids back in school, which is great.
Oh, that is great. Yeah.
I mean, you have to realize last year we faced Laura and Delta on the opposite side of the state. So, I mean, it's been a really tough couple of years, not just for weather, but for social and political issues, and certainly the global health pandemic. But we are doing our best out of our office to help support systems through the state to manage through this.
Yeah, sadly, we have well too defined of a template when it comes to having to miss school. It's between the hurricanes and everything else. It just
I look forward, Brian, to being able to come on the show in a year and just talk about literacy and shifts to the high school experience and how to make sure kids are ready for college and careers. But unfortunately, because of world events, that's not where we are.
No, we continue to sneak in a little bit along the way. He is Dr. Cade Brumley, heads up the he is the state superintendent of education. Dr. Brumley, thank you for hopping on today. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's I'm hard pressed to find how local decision making is ever going to be a problem. You don't like parent choice? Okay, well, don't do it in your district. Why is it any harder than that? By the way, as a follow-up, this is neither here nor there, East Baton Rouge not adopting the parent choice option, which from a statewide level, okay, fine. You got to make the call. You made the call. It's your kids. You do what you see fit. West Baton Rouge will. West Feliciana will. Livingston Parish will. Ascension Parish will. Haven't heard about Central yet, though. All right, let's catch CBS News here on Talk 107.3. Let me give you Hunt's number. Mike. Okay. Oh. Okay. Yeah. Hmm? Yeah, no. Nothing was in studio.
Was you said you started doing the show a few months before the pandemic hit. Were you having in studio like guests more often?
No, it's about the same. The phone makes it that much more accessible to everybody, so. Yeah, I started doing the show in April of 2019, so I had a good. Yeah.
Is it bump that's in here? It's 8 seconds long.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep that one handy for like the outside in when we have like hardly any time.
.837 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. The final score was ugly. The box score was even uglier Saturday night. Talking, of course, about LSU football, what went down in Tiger Stadium. First, home conference game since before the pandemic to have the possibility of a full crowd out there. No crowd limitations or anything. It just did not play out the way anyone saw that playing out, which is kind of emblematic of the Auburn game to begin with. But what went wrong? Joining us now, he is the co-host of Hunt and Hill on 104.5 ESPN. He's also the co-host of the pregame and postgame show on the LSU Sports Radio Network, Hunt Palmer. Hunt, welcome back, sir. How are you?
I'm all right, Mr. Haldane. I'm not over at the LSU Football Ops Center, so my mood's pretty good. I'm sure it's not very good over there.
No, it's going to be a rough day. It's going to be a rough week over there, to be sure. looking at the box score from Saturday night is just infuriating from start to finish. In that, Corey Kiner had 5 carries for 22 yards. Ty Davis Price had 5 carries for 18 yards. And when you take those two and add them together, that's actually more than the amount of rushing yardage that LSU had on the whole night. The run game is baffling to me. What is going wrong with the run game?
It's the offensive front. They're college kids, and you don't want to bash them, but you sit here and watch this for a month, and LSU is simply incapable, more so really than almost any team in college football, literally, when you look at the statistics, of running the ball. They just, when they hand it off, the opposing defensive front wins the line of scrimmage, knocks the LSU offensive line into the backfield, and you generally contact the runner 1 or 2 yards in the backfield, and LSU cannot run the ball. And so much so that they just quit trying in the fourth quarter. And generally, when you've got a lead, you try to run the ball and run the clock out. LSU can't do that. They've got to drop back and try to throw it, and that creates times where you stop the clock. It creates potential for turnovers like we saw at the end of the game. It just bogs down your entire offense. And LSU has prided itself for decades on being able to line up, be more physical, and run the football, and they can't do it at all now.
Okay, so let's unpack all of that, because this year's offense is supposed to be an attempt to replicate the 2019 offense. Now, the 2019 offense did have a run game as well. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was in the mix, to be sure, but there was a lot of short passes to set up the run game as well, using the pass as the run. Is this a matter of there's so much emphasis on replicating 2019 that there has yet to be an emphasis in practice-wise, yet to be an emphasis on just a good old-fashioned ground and pound, Les Miles-esque run game?
No, they want to do that, but that 2019 team had Sadiq Charles at left tackle for most of the year, who's on an NFL roster. It had Wood Cushenberry at center, who's a starting NFL player. It had Damian Lewis at right guard, who plays for the Seahawks and starts. They had pros on the offensive front. This group does not. Now, they've got veterans. I mean, there were 3 of these guys who weren't going to be eligible to come back to LSU, but because of the COVID extra year, did. That's Liam Shanahan at center, Ed Ingram, Austin Deculus. Those guys should have been moving on after last year, but were able to come back. They've got veterans. They just don't have pros. They would love to try to run the ball. They would love to run the ball. They don't want to just sit back there and Mike Leach it and throw it 55 times, but they can't run it. So it's a wasted down when they do. You realize when you run it on 1st and 10, you're going to end up in 2nd and 11.
Right.
Might as well not even try.
5 games into the season, can that get better?
I don't think so. I think you kind of are who you are.
Yeah.
I think there may be times where they bust a run here or there, but for the vast majority of the rest of this season, they're not going to be able to run the ball. Alabama's defensive front is a little bit lighter this year, but you're not going to move them around very much. Texas A&M has got a physical front line. You're not going to push them around much. Kentucky and Florida both do a good job at the line of scrimmage. And you can push ULM around, I'm sure, and they'd be able to run it that night in Tiger Stadium. But for the most part, no, this is who they're going to be. Now, they've got enough weapons on the outside. They've got a good quarterback, and they'll compete in some games. I know that the narrative around Baton Rouge is when the national championship and the SEC West, possibilities go out the door, kind of the interest wanes pretty significantly, and the thought is they'll never win another game. They got some really good players. Their defense is playing pretty well. They'll be in a lot of these games, and they'll win a couple of them, but they're not going to turn into some team that has a renaissance midseason and is able to run the football. That's just, you are who you are at this point.
Yeah, I didn't know if the number of injuries that have been happening. Cam Wire wasn't back till he played last week, but he didn't start last week, and you brought on your offensive line coach late into the off season. So I didn't know if maybe the chance for further cohesion and evolution was even on the table at this point. But
yeah, I do want to point out, you mentioned Brad Davis coming on as late as he did, and I think there would be a narrative that many people would go, look, they got a bad offensive line coach. Just get a new coach. Well, he's really good offensive line coach. Arkansas has done a really nice job of pushing people around. They ran it for over 300 yards on Texas, and he put that group together and left them this summer to come to Baton Rouge. He just was here so late, and I think doesn't have the tools that he needs at this point. So I don't think it's a coaching problem.
All right, so the run game was one problem on Saturday. What else went wrong?
They couldn't tackle Bo Nix.
Okay.
Running around, it looked like a JV high school game where just one guy's better than everybody on the field, and they can't tackle.
So that's the part of the game that concerns me the least, believe it or not, because to me that was just flukish. To me, that was something that you're not going to see replicated on a regular basis. Bo Nix was on this otherworldly mission after getting bumped by T.J. Finley. He comes back in, finds, I mean, not from a completion percentage standpoint, but kind of finds the zone from an elusiveness standpoint. Are you worried that Are you worried about the lack of tackling in the backfield like that?
No, I'm not. I think it's encouraging that LSU was able to get him on the run so often by doing a great job in pass rush. They got back there and they just couldn't tackle him. He was a 5-star recruit. He's an excellent athlete. He's been maligned a lot over his 3 years at Auburn because he's missed some throws and they've lost some games. But he's never been missing talent or ability. He's the really good athlete back there, and he made some plays that only he can make at this point. So it's not a concern. It would be a concern if he was able to sit back there, pass the football 6 times, and throw it to wide open guys. That's not the case. LSU's pass rushing like crazy. They got multiple guys in the backfield. They covered pretty well, but he just made some plays that were better than.
So between those two things, that basically covers the loss. Although I will say that the lack of a red zone offense. I mean, LSU had 4 field goals to go along with 1 touchdown, if I'm counting that right. So, what happens in the red? Is that right back to the run game as well, or is there a lack of creativity or a lack of execution when it comes to punching it in the end zone while in the red zone?
It's everything. The field does shrink down there. Obviously, you're not able to stretch it as much with your passing game. So it would help if you could, run it straight ahead, but they can't do that. So you got to get creative and try to find ways to score. Yeah, and they didn't do a good job of that in the red zone. And then I thought Ed Ogeron, was conservative a couple times. You got the best kicker in the country. I realize 58 yards is a long way to kick a field goal, but he can. And when your offense is struggling to score some points, I'm probably in the camp that anything from 60 and in, I'm going to give Cade York a chance to go out there and kick it. He's better than some of the pros at this point. So you've got a luxury there. You've got a star there. I would use it. And they chose to punt a couple of times, and who knows if that cost them 6 points or not, but we'll never know.
Looking ahead to Kentucky, what can LSU expect on the road this weekend?
Well, that's a Kentucky team that is physical at the point of attack. They have tried to implement an offense that throws it around a little bit more. They've got a quarterback in Will Levis, who's a transfer from Penn State early on in the season. He did a great job of throwing it. Against Chattanooga and South Carolina, not so much. So it's a team that LSU's probably got more talent than, but you got to stop the run, which LSU didn't do against UCLA and did a great job against Auburn. And it'll probably be a tight game. The spread's about a point, so that's kind of what Vegas thinks about it. It'll be one of those, like I talked about at the top, where I think LSU's got the guys to go up there and win, but they've got to score in the red zone, and not turn the ball over and try to somehow find a way to run the football a little bit. Got a week to try to figure it out.
Okay, so Tiger fans who pull up the box score from last week's Kentucky game, that's an anomaly there. Levis going 7 of 17 for just 87 yards. That's not what you could expect this coming Saturday.
Well, they were throwing it all over the place early on, and then it just kind of went away. And I don't profess to watch every snap that Kentucky plays, but it has gone away over the last 3 weeks, and they have gone back to trying to run it. Now, they got a couple of really good running backs, but to win at this level, you got to have 2 dimensions. LSU and Kentucky both proved that in different ways last weekend.
Yeah, was it Chris Rodriguez, I believe, was the stud last weekend for Kentucky. He looked very, very good. LSU's going in there at a great time, though, because Ed Ogeron coming off of a loss is nothing to mess with. And at the same time, though, Kentucky's coming off a win against a top 10 team and looking ahead to a top 10 team as well, as they'll have Georgia the following week. Is this writing the recipe for a trap game?
It's hard to imagine that LSU is a trap game for Kentucky. But, it's
now that I say it out loud, Hunt.
They're excited. I know they're excited up there, and Stoops has done an awesome job. But it's. I have a hard time going that far. I think when those purple and gold helmets show up in Kentucky, in the spot that they're in right now, the spot they're not in all that often, that's a big time spot for them.
One more, and this might be, we got about a minute left, so I don't know if I've got enough room for this whole question and answer. But we seem to be living with Ed Ogeron in a week-to-week basis from a fan's perspective. What's it going to take to get to where we can look at the program as a whole and see that it's going in the right direction?
Got to win games and got to sign recruits. That's really it. It doesn't matter how you do it. I've always said this. It doesn't matter what you say in press conferences. You can say nothing like Les Miles did, or you can say absolutely everything like Paul Maneri did for 12 years. If you win, nobody cares. If you lose, everyone's upset. That's about as simple as I can put it. You got to go out there and win games, and that's got to start with Kentucky this week.
Absolutely. He is Hunt Palmer. You catch him from noon to 2, Hunt and Hill. You and how's it working out with Jeremy? Y'all are off to a good start, man. I'm loving it.
Yeah, we're having a blast. I mean, obviously he's got the perspective of being a star at LSU and playing in the same huddle as Tom Brady and in the NFL with the Bengals as well. And he brings a lot of information that I certainly cannot as a lowly insurance salesman who just yells about sports on the radio. But we're having a lot of fun, and it's not as much fun when they don't play well like they did on Saturday. But we'll figure it out. We'll have Ed Ogeron's press conference today, and then we'll jump on at 1 o'clock and be reacting to the whole thing.
You know where to catch it on our sister station, 104.5 ESPN. Appreciate you, Hunt.
Thanks, Brian.
Later, bro. Here comes your money now. Huh. I can't. Interesting. .856 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Fox News Rundown coming your way after we're done here, and we're done here after this segment. So, hey, thanks again to Hunt Palmer for stopping by to talk a little bit about the run game, or lack thereof, with LSU. Not the rosiest of outlooks, though. All right, let me phrase it this way. When you're that bad, there's nothing but room for improvement. Like, if LSU goes out and rushes for 40 yards this weekend, that's better. My bigger question is, why are we seeing the same run plays 5 weeks in? Get inventive. Get creative. Anyway, you'll get plenty of that breakdown on 104.5, 104.9 ESPN all day long. And, of course, Ed Ogeron's weekly press conference, getting you geared up for Kentucky, will be at noon today, or just after noon. On 104.5. We carry it every single week. Hey, did you know it's Cybersecurity Awareness Month? Yeah, so October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I've always known that, but Mayor President Sharon Weston Broom's office put out a press release on Friday. Mayor President Sharon Weston Broom proclaimed October 2021 Cybersecurity Awareness Month, making the start of a month-long focus on educating city parish employees and Baton Rouge residents on the importance of being smart and secure while online. Quote, over the past several years, Baton Rouge has become a leading digital city, both internally when it comes to city parish operations and externally in how we serve our residents. As our community and world becomes increasingly digital, hackers and bad actors are similarly on the rise. Cybersecurity Awareness Month serves as a helpful reminder of how imperative it is for us to take daily actions to secure our data, protect our information, safeguard our accounts, and ensure our residents don't become victims of cyber attacks. By the way, the Red Stick Ready website has a ton of information about this if you want to learn more about how to protect your information online. Although, if you don't know already, well, where have you been? One more before we get you out of here this morning, and that is coming from Congressman Garrett Graves' office. His office and the rest of Louisiana's delegation, for that matter, put out a letter, penned a letter, if you will, on the punting on the infrastructure bill. Congressman Graves says, yesterday, we just enacted this press release came out, when was it? Friday. So he says, yesterday we just enacted legislation to provide assistance to victims of Hurricane Laura, Delta, Zeta, and Ida trying to rebuild their homes and businesses. The law also includes an estimated $2 billion in flood control, coastal restoration, and hurricane protection funding to help make Louisiana a safer place to live. This is a big win for Louisiana, but we continue to have important infrastructure needs. Congressman says any infrastructure bill must actually address our traffic problems, help improve broadband access, improve flood protection, and help restore our coast. We cannot support efforts to tax Louisiana citizens to build projects in New York and California. Y'all, as the infrastructure package picks back up, that's going to be the biggest rub. Ooh, we're out of time. We'll see you tomorrow. All right, YouTube, I got to get. We got our 9 a.m.